Hello and welcome to another episode of Sports and Songs podcast. We're your hosts, Dan and Andy. We're on season 7, episode number 22 today. It's the Songs edition,
Yes.
Andy. Nice shirt there.
Yeah, hams.
Got the Hams Beer shirt. I like it. Today is April 9th, 2026. We're on episode number 22. We're going to do an album review. Now, this band, Andy, we've done a few of these album reviews.
They've done a few albums, yeah.
I think we've done maybe 2 albums. They've done a bunch, but this is AC/DC we're going to cover tonight. Little AC/DC. And so here's the album cover. Once again, we'll go through a lot of the album and talk about it. Please leave your comments and questions down below if there's anything that we don't really hit on to start with. But here's the gentleman, the fine young gentleman here.
Yes.
And we're going to do the album Highway to Hell. Here it is. Highway to Hell is the 6th studio album by an Australian hard rock band, released 1979. It's the first of 3 albums produced by Robert John Mutt Lange, Andy.
Yes, first of 3, yes.
And the last one to feature lead singer Bon Scott, who died February of 1980 after the album came out. So this is a good turning point one because, they went with a new producer.
Yeah.
They had a death in the band after this. So coming up to 1978, AC/DC had released 5 albums internationally, and they toured Australia and Europe extensively in 1977. They landed in America, and with which Wikipedia says here, with virtually no radio support, AC/DC began to amass a live following. So I didn't know that. They didn't get much radio airplay until they were going pretty strong. And then once they did this, they got known as a live band to come and see this, and the fans really came out. So before this album came out, they did their first live album called If You Want Blood, reached number 13 in the UK.
Very good album.
So the previous producer for their first albums were Harry Vanda and George Young, the older brother of the two. Angus and Malcolm's older brother. Andy, I did not know this.
I knew they had a brother did some producing or something for them. I couldn't remember which albums, though. I remember hearing that.
So George Young and Harry Vanda did all the producing as these guys got going, from a small startup to a mid-size to a band that just took off. They didn't get the radio. They didn't get the radio play. So they said, I think we need another producer, a different producer to come in. And so they said, hey, let's get Eddie Kramer here. And, that didn't work. And they said, let's go with Robert John Mutt Lange. Let's bring in Mutt Lange to do this. And they didn't get along too well at the front end. And once they learned how he operated and what he did and how he operated, they got in pretty good, and they had a little good cohesive deal there. Now here's a quote from the loyalty to their older brother George. It said about Malcolm and Angus Young, being told what to do was bad enough. But what really pissed off Malcolm and Angus Young was that they felt George was being treated disrespectfully by Atlantic Records, like an amateur with no great track record when they came to production. They said, get someone else because this George guy is just, pretty average. He's not cutting it. They're like, that's our older brother you're talking about. He's been in the business for years.
Yeah.
He was a guitarist and was in multiple bands. So this was a very awkward situation. George, by the way, has since died. He was age 70. And when he died in 2017, 4 weeks later, Malcolm died.
Yeah, that was weird. They're going fast there, yeah.
I didn't know that either. So they said, we got to go with someone to make it a little more radio friendly, a little more commercial, but we don't want, we also don't want pop music, but we want hard rock that can play, that could work. So AC/DC went through a culture shock. Their albums coming up to this typically took about 3 weeks to record. They were in and out and done in 3 weeks.
Yep.
This one with Mutt Lange took an exhausting 3-month period to get this Highway to Hell album done. So a lot of this stuff, I didn't know all the complexities here that was going on, but now they record the Highway to Hell song, and as it comes up to release the album, they said, what's your name of the album? They said, well, let's go with Highway to Hell. Atlantic Records says absolutely not.
Nope. Try again.
They said they hated the idea of using the song as the album title. Despite the backlash, they said the name of the album this is meant to depict the experience of touring with us as a band. It's called Highway to Hell. They said, well, okay, we can kind of see that, but we're not going to put this out there, are we? And they're like, yes, we are going to call it Highway to Hell. So now, after the album came out, Highway to Hell quickly took on a life of its own, according to Wikipedia, because just after the death of Bon Scott in 1980, just months after the album was first released to the public, Bon Scott was found dead in his car, having drunk himself to death.
Yep.
So the title was more of a representation of his life up to the current, his literal highway to hell.
That's what people are saying, yeah.
His carefree attitude and his lifestyle and his so-called fierce independence and his hectic lifestyle. They say it kind of manifested itself as Bon Scott embraced his fate with enthusiasm. So this took on a life of its own, this whole Highway to Hell. And this is, once again, when it comes to selling records, something not planned or something organic has to happen for album to take off like this. And that was it. The name that they used, the lead singer dying, and people bought into it. Very good stuff.
Now I'm going to stop you right there.
Now the lyrics on the album. Yep.
Just stop you right there. Go back a couple weeks when we talked about Metallica, and they had the one album. The bass player dies, sales skyrocket. That puts them in the next level. I'm not saying the same thing happened to AC/DC. I think this album still would have done very well had Bon Scott not died. I think his death just made it escalated to go faster. Now, his death, did that change? That's you can't say the rest of the career would have been this long. Maybe they would have done 2 more albums and fade into obscurity. You never know. But I think the sales of this album, his death helped, but it sped it up. This album, I think, on its own merit, still would have sold as many albums. It's just,
I agree. It put it in fast motion. It really
this album still would have sold that many albums, but the death helped speed that up.
So here's the track listing. Highway to Hell, the title track is song 1. Girls Got Rhythm.
Great song.
Love that. Walk All Over You, Touch Too Much, and Beating Around the Bush.
Both great songs.
Excellent stuff here. Then it finishes with Shot Down in Flames, Get It Hot, and If You Want Blood, You've Got It. And then the weakest song on the album is Love Hungry Man.
Yeah, I think that was a bad one.
They themselves said that's kind of a throwaway. And it finishes with Night Prowler.
That's a good song. That's an underrated song, my opinion.
So, Andy, I got 2 things here for you. Number one, you're going to agree with this. They say the lyrics on Highway to Hell deal almost exclusively with 3 topics: lust, sex, and partying.
That's
bingo.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, that's kind of rock and roll in a gist right there.
It's just right there. That's just they're not bashful either. All these songs are very over the top. Now, Night Prowler. I think you'll know this, but I did not. The album's outro song had gained a degree of infamy over the years due to the alleged association with the Los Angeles serial killer Richard Ramirez. Richard Ramirez was coined the Night Stalker by the media. He was credited with a series of brutal murders, rapes, and attempted murders taking place between 84 and 85, and he was a big fan of AC/DC. Ramirez left behind an AC/DC hat at the scene of one murder, and in particular, he had a love for the album and the song Night Prowler. Ramirez himself never confirmed such an association, but the alleged connection brought bad publicity to AC/DC, whose ensuing concerts and albums faced protests by parents and the general public. So first of all, you got an album called Highway to Hell. You've got Night Prowler, which
Okay. Again, I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to interrupt you again one more time. That press from that guy did not hurt their sales. I don't think it helped it either, though. Okay.
Okay.
All it did is just put focus on the album by people complaining and protesting about it. Now, what year did this album come out?
79.
And these instances all happened like what, 7 years later?
84 and 85. Yeah.
Okay, 5 years later. Okay, whatever. AC/DC was already blown up with the Back in Black album, other stuff. So they were already starting to blow up. This did not project them again like a death of a member or bad press or good press would do. They were already going up. I think it's like a PMRC type group. They jumped on the coattails of a band that was hot. Let's try to bring them down.
Yep.
I think AC/DC would have just been an under the radar band the whole time. No one would have said a damn thing. They kept going.
Yeah. So it really, once again, the spotlight comes on the band, and this is 5 or 6, 7 years later. And people are like, oh, you know what? I forgot about that. I'm going to go get that album now, perhaps. And so sales, once again, could have been up, like you said. It could have been down. We don't know, but it brought into focus this album.
Attention back to the band, yeah.
Attention, yes. And once again, for albums like this that we see, it doesn't need to be good or bad attention. It just needs to have attention. So this thing goes 8 times platinum.
Yep.
And like you say, with all the things that happened, if it didn't happen, it probably would have went 4 or 5 times platinum, perhaps. And now you get a death, and you get strange things going along with it, but some great songs. And now you find itself going 8 times platinum. This album is 41 minutes and 33 seconds long. It's a nice, short, good album. Here is the personnel: Bon Scott, lead vocals; Angus Young, lead guitar; Malcolm Young, rhythm; Cliff Williams, bass; and Phil Rudd, drums. Like we say, Mutt Lange produced it. He went on to do the next one, Back in Black, which went to all sorts of records. It's one of the best. Some have saying the best album of all time when it comes to hard rock music. So this album is really second to that. It's second place. It's not going to beat Back in Black with Brian Johnson, but Highway to Hell with Bon Scott is the next best thing. Both are good on its own right, but the Mutt Lange production takes it to that next level. Do you agree with that?
Yep. And I looked up, I got my notes here. I went to a lot of AC/DC fan sites and music polls, and that top 5 AC/DC albums I put in there. Top 5 AC/DC albums. 9 out of 10 had Back in Black first, second to none. But Highway to Hell and Back in Black were almost in everybody's top 3.
Okay.
Some people threw in other albums on it just to be funny if they kind of liked it. I mean, the couple I saw that, I was like, you had that in your. One guy had. I'm not going to name names and start a whole other argument. Oh, this album was the second best album. Another guy has like number 15 on his list of favorite albums. So that's why it's called your fan favorites. Okay.
Yep.
But those two, Highway to Hell and Back in Black, were top 3 on almost every top 5 list I saw. And I think you just ask any hard rock heavy metal fan, Highway to Hell and Back in Black. Yeah, probably of AC/DC albums, top 3.
If you're going to get into the band, if you're listening right now and you're not into them, those are the first 2 to get for sure. You've got to get those 2 albums if you're starting out to listen to. Both have tremendous lead vocals.
Like we said with Van Halen, you change the lead singer, you've changed the band. When David Lee Roth left and Sammy Hagar came in, they were different bands because they changed the sound. Eddie Van Halen changed his sound. When Gary Sharon went in from Extreme, Eddie changed his sound. They changed according to the lead singer. AC/DC did not. I don't think so. Brian Johnson.
I agree. It sounds.
Brian Johnson's got a different vocal style, but they still kept the same boom, 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 hard rock in your face. You don't like me, kiss my ass attitude.
Correct. It's exactly correct, and they kept it. It's very uniform and standard. mantra, I guess. It's all, they're not jumping around with different love ballads and instrumentals
Yep.
and things. It's just good rock, hard rock music. Now with Eddie Kramer, that's what they first brought in. They said you should work with him as a producer. And Eddie Kramer, for those not familiar, was known for his great work with Jimi Hendrix and mega bands like Led Zeppelin and Kiss. Eddie Kramer, very good, but these guys did not hit it off. And it just, I'm glad they didn't go that route. You still have to have a fit. You still have to interview to get the right person. And they're like, this is not going to work. Now here's the alternate album cover, Andy.
Okay.
In Australia, the original Australian album cover for Highway to Hell is this one right here. And then the clean or the American U.S. version right here with the individuals kind of has a Rolling Stones look to it, where the members are all there.
Yeah.
I don't like one or the other particular better or not, but here's the singles they released. So this was released in 1979. So end of July, they released Highway to Hell as a single. And then November, Girls Got Rhythm. Very good song. And then the following January 1980 was Touch Too Much. Now, I don't think I was familiar with that song at all until I reviewed this album. Another very good song, but I don't think I remembered hearing that. And that was, by the way, only released in the UK. So maybe that's my answer.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't familiar with that. Anything else here, Andy?
No, there's the running joke that that's what I said. I had to look up the exact number. Angus gets very upset with this. To go, people at Angus are going, you've made 11 albums with the exact same sound. Been running that same sound for 11 albums. And Angus goes, no, it's been 12 albums. Because to a point, let's do it. It is kind of the same song, but you know what? They're still selling out arenas, selling top of the charts songs and albums.
Yeah.
And when they came up in 80 and got popular, like you said, they had no albums here sold, and they were getting a stage following. And this was just coincidence. Look at Slade when we talked about them a couple weeks ago. They just all of a sudden started getting a crowd following. That's what started their, how that boosted them. People wanted to go see AC/DC because of their stage show. Okay, I've heard that about 3 bands. And I can't think of 3 more different bands for stage shows, but people have done it. AC/DC, early Van Halen with David Lee Roth, and Kiss. 3 different types of hard rock, heavy metal, but they all put on the stage show you had to go see.
You had to see it, yeah.
Now, I've seen Kiss. That was with no makeup. Still great show. But I've seen the old videos of the old Kiss stuff, what they've done. I've seen the old tapes of the others and of Van Halen and AC/DC. Yeah, you had to go see it. That says a lot for a band. When back then, when you didn't have Spotify to look it up, you didn't have YouTube to look up videos. All you had was this magazine or word of mouth that you gotta go see this band. So you're gonna drop your few dollars to go see a band that you say this guy said he's good, and you went and saw him, and then blew you out of the water. You'll get that rush, that thrill anymore today with, hey, this band's pretty good. Oh, let me look up on Spotify or let me download some of their YouTube videos and see what they are. You kind of lose that when you go to the concert, because nowadays when you see the online stuff, you've heard
what to expect.
You've heard the perfect clean version. Yeah. You're not going to get that live. You're going to hear the missed chord. You're going to hear the drummer mess up. You're going to hear this and that. So people are disappointed then, go, oh, this band's no good. Give me live every day, and I'll tell you if they're good or not. The album will make me go see them.
Yeah.
I love you if you're based on your live stuff.
Now, Andy, the genre here is hard rock and blues rock. Thoughts?
With Bon Scott, I'd say blues rock, yes. Anything with Brian Johnson, maybe not so much.
Okay.
Not saying it's not still there, but with Bon, I heard it a little more.
I can pick that.
When up. You say blues rock, is that maybe just the Australian sound? their influences. So when you hear Southern rock, blues rock, they're playing rock and roll, but they got a blues influence in it. They got a jazz influence in it, you know.
Yeah, so they wrapped up the recording about around this time exactly, 1979. They were wrapping up the recording and put the album out that July. But Highway to Hell, very good. It's meant to talk about touring with this band as individuals, touring with this group. It's a Highway to Hell. It's tongue in cheek. It's good stuff. These guys do like to have a good time. It's an easy listening album. Some good bluesy songs there, some good rockin' songs.
Yep.
But give it a listen. It's good stuff. It's this and Back in Black with Brian Johnson are your two go-tos if you're going to get into AC/DC. The other ones are good.
Right.
These entire albums are good. It went 8 times platinum.
Yeah. And Back in Black blew that out of the water in sales. So
that was unbelievable.
That's
what got me into AC/DC was Back in Black. That was that album that I'm like, okay, I like these guys.
And what Mutt Lange did with them, and this is what the Mutt Lange magic, if you will. He didn't say, hey, write this radio-friendly song. He knew of your songs what would be radio-friendly. He kind of did it backwards. He had the band go, hey, we like this song, play it. No. Top 40 won't like it. Top 40 will like this one. We don't like that song. Do you like having a big house? You'll play this song, you know. Yeah. And so Mutt Lange turned the tables. We're not going to record a pop or top 40 radio song. We're going to make one that's top 40 is going to want to hear and like. Because they're going to want to play that hard rock band that everybody wants to hear about, but we can't have it be too graphic. What's your cleanest song? We still want to play AC/DC. Ooh, we're rebels, you know. So here.
Presented. It's all about the presentation and believe me, they played it. The radios played it. The most people I talk to that are not into rock, hard rock, or heavy metal, but you play them an AC/DC song, they're going to know it, and they're going to know that it's AC/DC.
They'll turn it up.
I know it. They have the songs that just are locked into your head that you hear anytime you're out at a bar or a football game or a stadium. Those are typically AC/DC songs, and that's because of Mutt Lange doing the work to make it come down to the common folk, the everyday person could understand and listen to it.
Or like when we've seen Thunderstruck, their cover band, one of the cover bands for them, they have such a wide library of music. You hear a song going, oh, God, that's right, that is an AC/DC song. Because you don't hear it as much, but you remember hearing it from time to time. You know, oh, yeah, that's right, that is one of their songs.
They've been around for a while.
Even at Christmas
touring,
time.
They're still active, right?
Yeah, and even at Christmas time, you got an AC/DC Christmas song. So what does that tell you?
Now, one last thing here before I forget, Andy, is, since Bon Scott died, back in 1980,
yes,
he died. Here's what's going to happen now coming up this year, July 9th. July 9th would have been Bon Scott's 80th birthday. So what they're going to do, his estate, the Bon Scott estate, is going to announce a merchandise campaign for his 80th birthday that's going to involve collectibles and apparel. I'll put the link to this in the description as far as the estate, kind of to get rid of some of the extra stuff that's been hanging around all these years.
Right.
Along with some very rare things. And if you've got AC/DC fan in your house or a family or a friend or something, memorabilia with between posters, T-shirts, and exclusive work by graphic artist and Aussie rocker Reg Mombasa. The ultra detailed Bon Scott statue based on images.
Oh, I've seen pictures of that. Yeah,
and a bunch of the shirts, and so this is going to be a huge thing. They're partnering with a company called Periscope Productions, but they're going to time this there over the 80th, basically it would have been his 80th birthday for Bon Scott. And that's coming up here July 9th. So they're going to get people to come out there and pick up stuff and make it be a big celebration event with a bunch of stuff to kind of clean up that estate of things that's been hanging around that people love. AC/DC fans love their memorabilia, of course. That'll be a big thing. We'll promote that as it comes up closer as well.
Yeah.
It's July 9th.
Yes, I'm noting that now on my calendar there.
Yeah, that's something that'll be interesting. I'll put the link to the description of the article out there. But as things get closer, that will be very interesting to follow how that shakes out. Because imagine all of the stuff that they're going to have at that estate that he had over the years. But that's going to be coming up July 9th. Anything else we missed here, Andy?
Just like I said, listen to Highway Hell. And if you do Back in Black, yes, remember the two different singers. But listen to the first few, and yes, like I said, for lead singer changes band, they are two different bands, but the sound is still there. You hear Brian Johnson doing the old Bon Scott songs. He does them justice. It's still not the same. It's not Bon Scott, but he doesn't really ruin it or butcher it either, you know.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Put it in this weekend. Give it a listen, and we'll talk to you next Thursday.
Yes.
Next week.